For every barrel they send, they need 3 barrels of water.
Yeah, because it's not as effective as the other.
And then of course, John, they have to separate it somehow. They got these massive, bulldozers that somehow they put it, but they've got to somehow separate the dirt
from the
tar.
Yeah.
So
well,
and then it's in. I think it's a kind of slurry, and there are like pumps all along the way, John.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So they get that down, and then it's refined. It's going to a refinery, so it's not running the line in the form of actually petroleum. I mean, it's crude.
Yep.
In the form of crude, John, it's a high sulfur content. It's not a good crude, the honey.
Yeah,
It's
right,
not a.
No,
it's a
low.
Yeah, it's a low level.
Yeah,
but
right.
the refinery, I guess, does what it does. It's not a sweet crude. That's the word they use, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, gentlemen. I'd like to, if we may, just review at least the initial camera angles and the slides. Make them have them in order.
So
Okay.
you'll be taking care of slides?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So let me know. So let's start with, this is our title slide. First, we have our 2 end bills. That's for the end of the show. 5 minutes before the end, you'll see the Chief Life license plate ad come up.
That's nice.
And then for your slides,
Nice.
tell me how you like this order.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Nice. 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 Notice, John, not many words.
Yeah. Good.
Nice. I learned that. Nice. Very nice.
Okay?
That's good.
Okay, so that's all ready to go.
That's nice. That's good.
And my paper?
Yeah, let me show you that.
All right. All right, John. Let's say a little prayer here.
Oh,
John and I are
it's
gonna-
coming on this side here.
Oh,
huh?
John, you want? That's
I want
nice.
to make sure.
Well, I was going to do it on this side, but I'll do it right now.
Oh, that's
Which
good.
side you gonna do it? This way?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yep.
When that's finished, I'll bring it to this shot.
That's good.
Got the 2 of you. Unless you want me to go directly to Ron and then,
No, you get it to me, and when I mention his name, then you can open it up.
to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay. Oh, I gotta wake up, John. God bless you,
God
John.
bless you too.
May the Lord be with us here as
Yes.
we try to do His will.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Shed the light of the world.
If I could wake up, John, I'd be good. Okay.
Again, what I'll do is I'll start at black, and when you see the title slide come up, that'll be the beginning of the show, of the program.
Okay.
All right, so
When the title slide comes up.
We're on.
the title slide comes up.
Okay, I'll start talking. Now let's see the time. Let's make sure it's on an even 5 minutes because I don't have anything else. In 2 minutes, at 5:20.
5:20, all right, we'll shoot for that. I'll give you a
And are you going to give us a clue when we're finishing, like?
Oh, I will take care of that.
You're going to let
Yeah,
me give us,
yeah.
so we
You'll-
make sure we say, we
yeah.
don't just
The
get,
pro-life, no, the pro-life sign will be up and you got 5 more minutes. And
Okay.
I will hurry you up. You
okay,
will
so
get a
that's
few
5 more minutes,
yeah.
yeah. So 5:20,
I will guide you along.
5:50,
Yeah.
5:50, we're done.
Yeah.
more specifically, Ron, this is the slide that'll show when we have 5 minutes.
Yeah,
This is the slide that'll show when you have 1 minute.
okay,
And this is the slide that'll show when you have 30 seconds.
okay, okay, all right,
And then when it goes black, then you're done.
all right, that's good. Do you have final words you say, John, on
Yeah, good-
signing out?
yeah.
Good night.
Oh, yeah.
right, all right.
It changes.
Okay.
Next program.
All right.
Oh, and for your information, the recording lasts for an hour, so I started the recording already. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Global warming, climate change. They changed the definition. Now it's called climate change because anything could happen, not just warming, but could be also cooling, who knows? But most likely warming is involved. You know, this reminds me of the stratospheric ozone depletion issue that we had in the late 1980s. At that time, there were indisputable key causes of the depletion of the ozone layer. In fact, at that time it was CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. These things here were clearly identified. Now they're called ozone depleting substances that could include other things. But anyway, you know, in the atmosphere, there's specifically this layer called stratosphere. There were, you know, variations, as I read here, in the amount of ozone, but the trend was clearly decreasing. Now, for climate change, let's compare the two. Climate change, we have the indisputable decline in Arctic ice cap and also sea ice. That is indisputable. You can see that on your TV. They have programs indicating the outline of the old amount of Arctic ice. Now, for climate change, again, the temperature rise is caused by CO2. And it is a little more doubtful than it is for the depletion of the ozone. So that's one clear difference. While the ozone depletion was strictly by CFCs, there are a number of different things causing CO2, and that could implicate this issue of the climate change and global warming. Also, you know, there are changing global weather patterns. There's more intense hurricanes, and there are other reasons not as certain as a climate change example I just gave, which is the decline of the Arctic ice. For climate change, well, what do we do? Well, what is the action do we take which is most effective and at the lowest cost? Those are two key factors. The key is how fast are we approaching a tipping point of CO2 emissions? That is, where it's very difficult to reverse. It may take hundreds of years to ever come back to the point where we are right now. This determines really how important it is to take this on as a world action and how much money and resources have to be allocated for it. Now, how do we reduce CO2 emissions? Well, China and the USA produce 40% of all CO2 emissions in the world, and China just surpassed us within the last year. The USA factor, well, you know, for us, the issue is we have natural gas, which has been a find that's extraordinary in its output, tremendous. It will give us total energy for about 100 years. This is like divine providence. So what happens, you know, you have renewables which were justified by the old price of energy. Now, unfortunately, in one way, and fortunately another way, we have now natural gas, which makes us really independent of any source of energy from the other parts of the world. This is where we're going. That's how much we have developed. It's a matter of the infrastructure developing the uses of the natural gas. So if the cost of energy is dropping like a rock, yet we have the problem, we won't invest in renewables, but where do we put the money? Do we give the citizens of the United States the money, or do we invest in the future? And this is the equation, which is extraordinary, and it's changed dramatically. Hi, I'm straight talk. This line may not be straight, but if you like, you can call in and correct us, correct me, at least right now, and make it straight. This program is not live tonight. I've had some problems scheduling time, and I work full-time, and that makes it difficult sometimes. Sometimes it takes me several hours to prepare for a program, then the last minute, I can't do it. I won't come on unless I feel 95, 98% of what I want is accurate and is going to be presented coherently. I'm broadcasting from the Reading studios of RCTV, and the program is natural. Now, natural is, the hair in my head is all natural. I've lost a few in the last few years. The other thing is, you notice I have no makeup. There's nothing. I'm going at it naturally, because those who want to watch a program want to know if I have wisdom. And this proves that I have wisdom because I am aged. Straight Talk, it's really the best interactive program around. Really? Why? Because we're different. We're not a talk show program as you see in the radio, on TV. The TVs do have occasional opposing points of views. Radio, they do, but only briefly. So this is an interactive program. I have guests sometimes, and tonight I do have one, and sometimes not. But the chair I have is always available for the viewer. You can call in, or you can come and talk. If I'm not talking straight, and I have been talking straight for 3 years because no one has come to this chair on their own. Usually it's by invitation because people are unsure about what they are doing, or at least unsure about what they want to say. Tonight, let's see how we handle a very big USA project, and it's called the Keystone Pipeline. XL Pipeline is located in Texas. This was an issue of some significance during the Obama-Romney discussions. Now, if you want to view this program, you're not going to see it live tonight, but it'll be available next week on the program schedule that RCTV has. Just go to rctv.org. But you can view my programs anytime now by going to my website, as you see at the bottom, johnnystraighttalk.com, and you can pick out the programs you want to see. Now, one of the things here about this Keystone project is that we still want to reduce CO2, and tonight we have a guest. He's my favorite guest, Ron Daddario. He has been on the program 5 times. This man is assured of what he says. He's a man of principle, even though occasionally we have, maybe more often than not, difference of opinion. Most of the programs I've hosted with him have been basically one with another gentleman by the name of Dr. Williams. Now, Dr. Williams has a PhD in chemistry, and we've had a couple of programs with him, and we also have had programs with Dan Ensminger. So he's my favorite guest, and he just came back from Washington, D.C. on a rally. So I'll introduce you to Ron Daddario.
Thank you, John.
Good to see you.
John, always a pleasure
Yes.
to be here.
Great.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express some of my views.
Definitely. And since we don't have Dave Williams, who usually is your counterpart, I will stand in for him to give part of an opposing viewpoint.
I'm grateful for that, John. Thank you, and I know you'll do a great job.
Thank you.
I went to D.C. to do a kind of a rally, which was to let President Obama know that we didn't want the pipeline.
Right, yeah.
And this is the Keystone Pipeline, the Keystone XL Pipeline. And Mike, just to give you a little background, could you show us that first slide just so we can let people know what we're talking about? We have a slide depicting the whereabouts of the pipeline. As you can see, it starts in Alberta, Canada, and it goes all the way down to Port Arthur and Houston, 2 refineries. The pipeline goes through several states, and you can see the pipeline, the length is, I believe it's something like 1,500 miles. The pipeline itself is 30 inches in diameter. There are innumerable pumps along the way to keep what I think is sort of like a slurry from the tar sands. This is not a sweet oil that you might find in Pennsylvania, but it's kind of a tar-like substance. And they're going to try to send it from Alberta down to Texas. It's a costly way of getting oil, but because the price of oil has gone up, they said once it gets much over $50 a barrel, then tar sand oil starts to become profitable. So I was against it, and the question is why? And there are a lot of reasons. I mean, some of the reasons are when I was on the rally, I met a woman from Nebraska. Her farm was 6 miles from the pipeline. And she was a pistol, man. She did not want that pipeline. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't want this woman against whatever I was doing because she was one fiery lady. But for her, it was, she was afraid of for her farmland, that if that pipe leaked and that slurry got in, they were going to be in trouble. And the other thing was, it was over the Ogallala Aquifer, which is the largest
the next,
aquifer. Yeah, Mike, if you could show us slide 2. And the aquifer actually provides about 2 million people. This slide shows some of the aquifers over the 6 or so states. These are the middle states which provide much of the crops. And that aquifer not only brings water to about 2 million people, it also provides irrigation for vast areas of farmland. The aquifer is underground, and it doesn't take much oil or oil of this kind of sulfur that if that was to infiltrate the aquifer, we'd have a problem. And of course, how do you clean it? How do you get it out when it's that far underground? I mean, it could be a national disaster. Now,
If I could
yeah,
just
sure,
interrupt
John,
for a moment.
please.
Basically, what you're trying to do is you feel compelled about the CO2 issue, and
Yeah.
you like to stop the pipeline because that's going to contribute more to the CO2, which is increasing as it is. Is
Right,
this
John.
basically?
That's right, John. I mean, when you come down to it, why is the environmental community up in arms about this? And they're against this because of the direction that it takes the country. We have the amount of CO2 that we have in the atmosphere has given us a temperature rise of 0.8 degrees centigrade, which is 0.8 is I think it's 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So that increase in temperature right now has caused our climate disruption. I don't have to go into the list of what's going on in terms of climate disruption, John. I mean, in terms of high temperatures, the warmest decade, the warmest month, the warmest this, the warmest
droughts
that.
in certain parts of the
drought.
world.
The drought we had this summer, you had farmers losing half their crop, all their crop. We had drought in, it was in Russia where they stopped grain exports for a while because they were afraid they needed to feed their own country. So we have all kinds. I mean, on top of that, you've got our population increasing, and no, climate change is not responsible for the increase in population.
No.
So it's not responsible for everything, right, John? But this is the problem we're looking at.
This is a more difficult thing to assess as compared to the ozone depletion issue at that time. There were issues that they can really clearly make a
Right.
case for. For example, the ozone layer itself really reduced the amount of UV radiation.
Right.
And there's no question, with higher levels of UV, you have a plankton problem in the seas, and then you also have the problem with eyesight. You have more radiation coming
Right.
down. There are direct effects. This is not quite as clear, but it seems that way. And so more data is accumulating. Am I correct on that, basically?
When John, when you talk about the ozone depletion,
Right.
we saw it. It was an international problem.
That's correct.
It
Yeah.
was caused because ozone, the generation of ozone was limited to even a certain number of companies. So you could have a handle on it. So internationally, was
It
it
was
the
easier to-
Montreal?
Yes,
Accord or
Montreal
something?
Protocol,
The Montreal
yeah.
Protocol. We had the industrialized countries, a limited number of companies.
That's right.
And we could get a handle on it.
That's right. And it wasn't too difficult to
Right.
coerce these companies. In fact, DuPont was very interested in doing that
Right.
because really it changed it from CFCs to other kinds of products, which DuPont makes.
So DuPont was smart to get
Yeah.
on the bandwagon and come up with they had a solution. And with that solution, because they were ahead of the curve, then
They came in.
So they were smart.
That's right.
And
so either way,
a
you're going to
win-win,
pay.
right? Now with the climate, it's a little different.
Right.
Because we have so many companies, there's so many contributors to it. And also, unfortunately, the United States has not been proactive as it was with, for
There's
a
no
whole bunch of
question, yeah.
reasons. for a whole bunch of reasons.
They have not signed on, as they did with the Montreal Protocol, very early in the game. This
Right.
time here, for political reasons,
For the whole gamut of reasons, okay?
they haven't signed on.
Michael, I think if we show, let's go down, I'm gonna bump through a couple of slides pretty quickly. Could we do that? Okay, quick look at, part of the pipeline you have to realize is already built. And this is above ground. It's actually 30 inches in diameter with a number of pumping stations. Next slide, Mike. I'm going to go. Some of it's underground. You get an idea of the size. You can see the gentleman standing in the trench. Again, Michael. Some of the rally, you can see jobs versus environment. This is in Nebraska where, you know, and all through the United States where they're asking, we want jobs, you know, the pipeline's going to create jobs.
Oh, right.
Well, it'll create some, but once that pipeline's built, the number of jobs is not going to be huge. Next one, I want to get down to a few other things. And then you got the environmental society or community saying, hey, pipeline and game over. Why? Next slide. Look, quick. The scientific community at large, from the National Academy of Scientists to the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, have come up with a 2 degrees Celsius. If we go to 2 degrees Celsius, they feel
Average temperature.
average temperature of the world. Now that's going to be about, I believe, am I got that right? Yeah, 1.44. Yeah. So it's going to be about 2.88. Almost, yeah, 1.44. I'm trying to think here. Oh, yeah, wait a minute, 1.8. Yeah, 3.6 degrees. It'd be about 3.6 degrees
which is
Fahrenheit.
almost about 4.
Say again? Yeah,
It's
almost
about
4.
4, yeah.
That if we get to that increase, now remember we're at 0.8 now. Now I got to tell you, keep the slide on, Mike. We have 0.8 now. We've got another 0.8 already in the system. And what I mean by that is the CO2 we generate today takes about 10 years to have an effect in the environment.
Wow.
So that 0.8 we put in during the last decade, it will come to fruition.
And the CFC issue was really, again, delayed.
It's a delayed response.
It's about several years.
Exactly.
There's a lot of similar parallels.
So we are committed now to 1.6 degrees centigrade. We're committed to that amount, okay? We've got a 0.4 degrees centigrade before we get to 2. Why is 2 considered critical? John, do you know? Do you want to go with that?
Go ahead.
2 is considered critical because at that point, they're afraid of the tipping points that John mentioned. A tipping point means runaway climate change, when we can't bring it back.
Sure.
Because it feeds on itself. There are these closed loops. We talked about you melt the ice. You melt the ice reflects sunlight. When the ice melts, the ocean absorbs sunlight. So you heat the earth more, you melt more ice.
Right.
More ice melt, you heat the earth more, and suddenly, guess what? We can't change it. So that 2 degrees. Now, look, let's say right now, we're going to go to, say, 1.6 Celsius. We're going to have a rough time. We're at 0.8, and already, John, we've seen some rough going.
In this precision of degrees, it's not easy to say what's your average. Because let's face it, there's 1.8 that's gone up, 0.8 has gone up. What's that based on? How many points of sampling and all this other stuff? You know, it's difficult to,
right now,
because you're not
John,
talking about big numbers.
No. Right now, that 0.8 is, they've monitored that up and down. And you also have to remember that you can double that. The poles tend to get warmer. And even you go up, they're at, I've seen like 4 degrees centigrade. But you can at least double, times 2 for the pole, whatever you have at the equator. So they're looking at like 1.6 centigrade right now. And that's why, I mean, it's no surprise, considering we've seen the Arctic sea ice melt and and the glaciers melt and all of that stuff. So that's why the environmental community doesn't want to see another form of fossil fuel production.
Right.
It's saying not
So you're
only...
just basically agreeing with what the people are from this groups?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I don't know if it's worth it. Mike, can we see another slide? John, you tell me, are we oversliding it here? Are we doing too many slides? Okay, next
Maybe
slide.
10 minutes.
You've got what they're looking at, that 565 gigatons of CO2.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That is how much more CO2 we can put in the atmosphere that will give us 2 degrees centigrade. We can put that much more in.
Right. This is on the rate we're going on.
On the
right now.
rate we're
And
going
growth.
now. Now, that's if things are linear. If sometimes it's not linear,
Yeah,
it
that's
can
right.
take a dive up.
Correct,
But if
yeah.
it stays linear and it doesn't get carried away. Mike, back to the slide. CO2 emissions, no, we don't stay, we're growing at around 3%. The recession kicked it back a bit. But now, at that current rate of growth, in 16 years, we get that 565 gigatons of CO2 in the atmosphere. That gives us 2 degrees centigrade.
Wow, okay.
Now, I think I've got another slide, if it's maybe not too boring for people. One more. Look, here's the crux of it. This is the math. We have on record with Exxon and all the major oil companies.
Coal and gas.
Yeah, it's not the total. Keep that up, Mike, a second. 27 or 2,800 gigatons in the ground. It doesn't count the tar sands, the new stuff. They found tar sands in Venezuela bigger than in Alberta.
So a gigaton is a
billion.
billion.
A
and
billion
so
tons.
You're talking about over $1 trillion.
Yeah,
trillion.
a lot. And they say
Tremendous amount.
it's worth something
Yeah.
like $27 trillion
Correct.
on
yeah.
the market.
Right, sure.
Now, look,
Quadrillion.
here's what we said.
Yeah.
We've got more than that, actually, with the shale that you mentioned, John, in terms of gas and oil shale, tar sands, et cetera. And it doesn't count all coal reserves because they're not accurately cataloged.
Right.
All right. We can only add 565 gigatons to get to 2 degrees. Hey, that means we can only use 20% of that, and then we got to go to 0. So we got to leave 80% in the ground. So the environmental community says, do the math.
Yeah, right.
And doing the math says, look, this is it. This is science. It's Mother Nature. You can put so much more and you're going to get consequences.
Now, they've been following this for quite a while. Have they been able to validate, say, when they made a prediction 5 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago, how is that tracking with what they had predicted at that time?
Yeah.
Is it tracking reasonably well so we can say that the predictive part of this equation, that is, the curves are really predictive, that is, in 5 years it'll look what it should be?
Well, that's a great question. Right now, there are like 40 top computer models that do climate forecasting. And those models, although they don't agree like where's the tipping point? We don't know. Exactly, is it 2,800 gigatons? Is it 3,500 gigatons?
Yeah. But it's still going up.
But there's
No question it's going up.
question that going up it's bad.
Yeah, okay.
There's
so
no
it's a matter how
question.
fast we're going up.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think you read, and if you look, the projections almost inevitably are less than what we get.
Wow, so it's accelerating.
It seems that they project something like, for example, if you read anything about the loss of Arctic sea ice, when you see the scientists go up, they're shocked. Guys that were up there and do the projections, they go up and it's like, oh my God,
It's far worse than it
beyond.
was. Yeah.
It's far worse.
Yep.
So the modeling, while not perfect, and that's partly because of clouds, the changeability of clouds. Clouds reflect sunlight.
Sure, yeah, which you
but
can't
they-
predict.
But
By
yeah,
the way, thank you for all those who have gotten their pro-life license plate, and we continue to need more because people leave the state. You know, they're running out of the state. The taxes are going up and up. And the unemployment rate is still not dropping, it went up again. Any case, one other slide that I think would be great is that question I gave you, is to show on a chart the rate at which they had projected at one point and what it is, and maybe the worst condition and the least worst condition
well, yeah.
in terms of projection versus actual. That
Okay.
way there,
That-
people can actually see more clearly to be able to visualize this
Right.
the next time.
Well, you know, I've seen that 4-degree. Well, I just was getting ready for the show. I read where, like the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change for the United Nations. Now they came up with, if things are on the trajectory we're on, if nothing changes, like they show, for example, a difference between maybe 2 degree to as high as 8 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
So when you
Dramatic.
look at what's projected, there is a pretty wide, now a lot depends on what we do between now and then. Do we stay on fossil fuels or do we start to get off? And that's why this pipeline, remember, John, once industry spends a whole ton of money on a certain process, they need to get a return.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
if
how
we,
most companies
right?
operate, all
If-
companies.
So this is why, like for example, if somebody wants to put a new coal company, they want to start a coal mine.
Right, yeah.
Or mountaintop removal. The idea is no, don't build it, because once you build it, it's hard for me to tell you close
right,
down the
right.
mine. So this is not the direction.
That you want to go,
Yeah.
and others. You're not the only one.
Well, I like to think that as more and more people, my daughter, like in New York, the subways were flooded.
Oh, yes.
Everybody, all of the cities are along the seacoast now, adaptation plans.
Yeah,
What to
for
do
the worst conditions.
when this happens.
Correct.
Flooding, whether it's drought. So it's like, well, you say, can we compromise on this?
Yes.
It's like, well, can we compromise with Mother Nature? Mother Nature doesn't sit down at the table
Right.
and say, well, I'll hold off on this
That's
for a few years. I'm going to give you some time to make some money.
Right. Now, we have only a couple of minutes left. Is there any summation you'd like to make about anything you've said so far? And,
Well, my summation to everybody is to please study, look at what's going on. Make sure you're not just leaving it to others. This is important. It's important. We used to say it's important for our grandchildren or our
right.
grandchildren's
Right.
children.
Yep.
Well, this has got to you and me. I mean, it's to our kids. It's to right here and now. When I was in D.C., they have a subway system. And I was walking on the street and I saw a grate. You know, this large grate that kind of allows the subway system to breathe. And all around it was sandbags. And I said, what's the sandbags for? Then I thought,
Right.
flooding.
Flooding is
They're
absolutely
trying to
right.
keep the water from getting
Coming
into the
into-
subway
you know,
system.
It's serious. It's
So-
billions of dollars there. I think it cost us $30 billion.
Right. And you know,
30 million, I'm sorry, 30 million. 30 billion would have been
30
extraordinary.
okay.
$30 million for New York City alone.
30, I think it's over 30 million,
Billion.
John. I think you're looking in the billions to bring that back.
Okay,
30
that's a
million
big
is,
number.
that's small change, John. That's
Maybe
small.
it is. Maybe it is 30 billion.
If it was 30 million,
think so.
we'd be lucky. But anyway,
Okay,
Thank you,
we're coming,
John.
coming to an end of our program, and I want to thank Ron for his time, and we'll enjoy another session with you. And I want to remind my audience, the next program, which I've had some difficulty putting together more time, is the decline of the USA. And that, I mean, crony capitalism, and also we have human devaluation as a result of drugs now are going to be legalized in Colorado and Washington State. Then we have other things like a financial crisis. And these are things important. Assisted suicide, it didn't happen this time. It's only won by 2 percentage points. We will have assisted suicide and then you have several states already. These things are not what I call the kinds of things we want in our society. Our society, that's it. All right.
I wanted to thank you, John, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, that's okay.
I was going to say thank you.
Because we were
but-
running, that's okay. I thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to get things going that doesn't fit, so I have to interrupt. And
all-
also, my question
I'm
about the
happy with
chat only came just that moment.
I don't mind.
And that's, I think, would be good, because
don't
the
mind.
chart would show that the predictability
yeah.
and the certainty.
Oh, John, you know how they do that? You know what they do? They get their programs, and they'll take the program back to, say, 1950. Then they load it with 50 stuff and see
Yep.
if it comes out to 2012. That's how they check the program.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, they run it.
Yeah,
and
that makes
see
sense.
If
That's
it
good.
predicts what happened.
Yep.
But no, they've
Having
got.
having a slide showing that, if we could, would be very helpful.
Okay, John,
All
we got
right.
a lot more for future.
Oh, there he is, my grandson, Brandon Tiso. Meet
How you
the
doing?
gentleman here, Ron Daddario.
This isn't on, is it?
Come on over here.
No, no, no.
It's not on. It's not on.
That's all right.
It's over. Watch your feet. Don't trip.
Don't worry.
Wait, come on
My mom
on.
would slit his throat.
What's that?
Your
My
sword.
mom would slit his throat if I thought it was on.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay, we're ready to go.
All right. Hi, guys. Hi, guys. How
This
you
is
doing?
Andy, Andrew.
Hey, Andrew. Hey, nice to meet you guys.
That's Brandon. This is
Nice
Andrew.
to- Too bad you didn't come on.
And that's Brandon's twin sister.
Oh, hi. Nice
Madison.
to meet you. Nice to meet
Just
you.
think of yourself coming on someday.
How are you doing?
I'm 18.
When
Nice
you're
to see
18.
You.
John keeps you
Where's
hopping,
Andrea?
I'm sure.
She's hiding.
I know.
My
Oh, God.
Look at this, your fake phone.
fake phone. So did you see it in the other room?
I did, I saw some.
You know,
Okay.
it's you know, your let's see, your granddad, your dad,
Yeah,
your granddad.
Granddad, yep.
He's a celebrity.
Yeah, yeah, right.
You know, he's a celebrity. Anyway,
Kind of my daughter would like to see. Even my wife for one
I mean,
time.
you're a celebrity in the post office. I mean, the mailman loved you.
Yeah, they had the wanted chats.
uh-oh.
Yeah, we can see ourselves on TV.
Oh,
You got that?
Well.
All right, thanks again.
thank you, John.
I'm off to the restaurant.
Yep, we had a good time.
10 minutes later than we, 20 minutes later than we.
Yeah, you
expected.
go.
Thank
I'll
you.
stick with Mike a little bit here. If he
No,
needs
it's
any
okay.
help. Nice
Thanks
meeting
again.
you. Thank you for coming. Yeah, you too. John, take care, and thank you, John.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
All right, Ron, way to go, nicely done.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, what can I do to help you? Can I help out a little bit? Can I unplug these things, or? Mike, can I help you?
I'll let you know, let me get them set up, I'm just gonna,
Should I unplug the mics? Or leave everything alone? Don't touch anything, I could break it. Wow.
See here, now here.
I might.
All right, way to go, Ron.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, actually, let me stop the recording. I'll be right with you.
Alright. Oh, wow. Oh, they gotta plug this in. Oh, this is really, what a machine.